Hello, everybody. Happy Saturday afternoon. Hope yours is going well. We've got another Seahawks video to get to today, but first I want to give a shout out to all the subscribers, and special tip of the cap goes to the channel members, especially elite channel members, Brendon, Mikel, Hasher for MVP, VGK Tiger 75, Ryguy, Salacious, Crumb, Brendon Nelson's Haircut, TVO, ItsHoof, The Reno, 12th Man, Austin Roberts, and Scott Todd. All right, part two of our look at left tackles in this draft. And obviously, we already went over the top prospects the Seahawks could get, so today we're going to take a look at the late round sleepers. These are guys who I expect to go in the 5th, 6th, 7th, or not at all. These guys probably won't be big impact players as rookies, and you guys know how I am on board with making sure we get as many impact rookies as possible in this draft. But we are likely going to have at least a couple of picks in those late rounds where you get those projects. So these are some guys who can be projects. And we do have a little bit of time to buy at left tackle because we do have Dwayne Brown for another year. So drafting a good project who can start by year 2 or maybe even year 3, I can work with that. We already know what kind of tackle we're looking for. If you watched my video yesterday, you already know what's up there. So let's just dive right in with prospect number 1. This is Dan Moore Jr. from Texas A&M, the first sleeper who I'm into. So, Dan Moore Jr., Texas A&M, 6'6", 309 pounds, nice frame for a left tackle. He's big, he's tall. Not a very good 40 time 5.3, but nothing crippling there, I don't think. Walter Football likes him quite a bit. They think he's going to be a 3rd or 4th round pick. ESPN thinks he'll be a 4th rounder. Draft Network says 5th. Pro Football Network says 5th or 6th. And Pro Football Focus doesn't have him ranked. So I think he's probably going to be about a 5th round pick, if I had to guess. So what I can say about Dan Moore Jr., he's got a ton of NCAA experience at tackle. I think he had over 30 starts for the Aggies. He has the upper half strength to engage with defenders and sustain blocks. He's got long arms, which helps with your reach when you're dealing with pass rushers. He's also a pretty effective run blocker. So he's well rounded. He can do both things. He can run block, he can pass block. He's got the length to deal with speed rushers. He's got the strength to deal with bull rushers. He is overall just an average athlete, admittedly, and he does still need work on his pass blocking. I think he's okay, but as you would expect from a guy you can get in the 5th round, he does have some stuff to work on in that regard. He will need to add some lower half strength to his body before he can start in the NFL, although, again, we have a year for him to get right before we have to actually put him out there on the field. So I don't have a problem with the project if we decide to go with a left tackle in the later rounds. At the end of the day, it is believed that Dan Moore Jr. will be a good fit for a zone scheme because he doesn't have the most strength in the world. Now, he's not the greatest athlete ever either, so it's not a perfect match, but I think it's pretty good. So if the 5th round comes around and the Seahawks end up having a pick in the 5th round and Dan Moore Jr. is there, I think that would be a pretty good selection. Not an amazing one, but he has a chance by year 2 or maybe year 3 to be able to do something for you. All right, so that was prospect number 1. Let's go to prospect number 2. This is Alaric Jackson Jr. of the Iowa Hawkeyes, and a lot of people have been telling me about this guy with good reason. If you want to get somebody in the late rounds of the draft who has a chance to be a contributor as a rookie and start by year 2, it's this guy. He's only 22 years old, too, so despite his relatively high amount of experience at Iowa and him being a relatively, ready for the NFL prospect, all things considered, he's not that old. 6'6", good size, 318 pounds, good mass, 5.3840, not very good, but I like this guy a lot. And if you want somebody who can be a good stopgap for a year or 2, this might be your dude. Walter Football says 4th round to 6th round. Pro Football Focus says 6th round or 5th round. ESPN says 6th, and Pro Football Network says he's a fringe 7th rounder. Draft Network says he goes undrafted. I expect Alaric Jackson Jr. to be a late 5th or an early 6th, personally, if I had to guess. This guy is versatile enough to potentially have multiple roles in the NFL. You might see him at left tackle, you might see him at right tackle, you might see him at guard. A couple people think he might play guard in the NFL. He's got some versatility to him. He's a good technician at the tackle spot. He's got good experience. He's smart. He's a cerebral player. He can block at the second level with his mobility. The guys who come out of Iowa at the offensive lines position, they tend to be pretty ready to go. They tend to be already kind of maximized. And the downside with that is they can't get that much better. But the upside is that they're going to be okay immediately and you can plug them in and go and not feel too bad about it. So if you want to find a guy who might be able to play well as a rookie, this might be your dude. Even though he's not fast, he has enough mobility to be able to block at the second level too, so he's a good fit for what we're trying to do. He does need to get stronger and meaner, if possible. I will grant that. And again, he might not cut it at tackle in the NFL. He's not fast. I don't think he's a bad athlete, but he's not fast. So you might see Alaric Jackson play guard in the NFL. But if you're worried about what happens if and when Dwayne Brown misses time or if and when Brandon Shell misses time, and you're not seeing the solution to those issues on the roster right now, and you want somebody you can pick up for cheap who can just man the fort, Alaric Jackson Jr. is probably the best you can do. Now, will he ever be a full-time starter in the NFL? I'm not so sure. I don't know if I see that. He's probably a one-year stopgap, but pretty good one as they come. So, Alaric Jackson Jr., I like him. Prospect number 2 in the books. Let's go to prospect number 3. Whoops. This is Josh Ball from Marshall. 22 years old, relatively young. 6'8", and that right away makes you go, whoa, what's going on with this guy? Now, height is not a great thing sometimes when you're a left tackle, but it can be if you know how to use it. I think we all understand that you don't want to block too high, but if you know how to get low enough and you have that frame, you've really got something. 308 pounds, 5.1940, pretty good 40 time for a dude who's this tall. I like it. The only publications that think he's going to be higher than a 7th round pick are Draft Network and Pro Football Network. They both have him in the 6th. Walter Football says 6th to UDFA, probably a 7th. ESPN says late 6th to a 7th. Pro Football Focus says fringe 7th. So we're probably looking at a 6th round pick. If I had to guess, we're probably looking at a 6th rounder. He's a very appealing combination of size, athleticism, and quickness. So he's tall, like we said. He's already got some pretty good mass to him, and he can move. 5.1940 is no joke for a guy of this size. So this guy, in excuse me, in terms of the physical tools, he's got it all. He's got experience at left tackle. He played a lot of left tackle at Marshall. He's phenomenal at dealing with speed rushers. He uses his height very well. He uses his length very well. So he should be somebody who develops into a guy who can handle the speed rushers. He also has good flexibility, which gives him the leverage to handle bull rushers. So this guy, if he pans out in the NFL, you're looking at a quality pass blocker. And that's the most important thing a left tackle does at the end of the day. So this guy's on my radar for sure. He moves laterally very well, so you don't have to worry about anything like that. You don't have to worry about him not being able to set the edge. Downsides, he's not a very good run blocker, and that's really the reason why he's not a much higher draft pick than he is. Now, as I've said before, as a left tackle, your main priority is to protect the quarterback's blind side, but it's fair to point out that as of right now, he's not a very good run blocker. However, this kind of ties into the next little negative I'm going to get into here with Josh Ball. He needs to add some mass to his body, but if you look at his frame, he can easily do that. He's 6'8". He could go up to like 320, 325, maybe 330, and still not be overweight, and still not be immobile enough to be forced to move to guard. He can put on some weight, no problem. And if he ends up having to do that in order to become a competent NFL run blocker, that's cool. So this is my third prospect that I like in this area of the draft at left tackle. Really intrigued by his mix of size and speed. So let's move on to our fourth and final prospect. So number 4, we have Tommy Doyle of Miami of Ohio. This is going to be our final left tackle prospect we take a look at in this series. This is another big dude, and I mean big. Check this out. He's 6'8", 326 pounds, but it doesn't slow him down. He's got a 5.28 40. So this size, this height, this speed, right away you're like, oh, this guy has a chance. This guy matches up in terms of size with the best of them in the NFL already. However, he's still not expected to get drafted very high. Pro Football Network says 6th rounder. Walter Football says 6th round to UDFA. Draft Network says 7th rounder. Pro Football Focus says fringe 7th rounder. And ESPN says nothing. Not drafted. So this guy's very intriguing from a talent perspective. You give him a year or two to develop, you might have something. He's got experience playing on both sides of the line from college. He can be left tackle or right tackle. And hey, that's good for us because we're about to need help at both positions in all likelihood. Both guys are on the last year of their contract, Shell and Dwayne Brown. He's extremely strong for a prospect in this range of the draft. He's going to overpower people. He's going to put people on the ground. He's going to take people out in his blocking. He's got good grip strength as well, so once he latches onto a defender, it's hard to get him to let go. So really good stuff there. Now, the one downside I have for Tommy Doyle here really is he's an average athlete overall. And while I did point out the fact that he was a great combination of size and speed, there are some things in his athletic profile that are not great. I don't think there's anything there that's too bad, but in terms of things like quickness and agility and blocking at the second level, it's a bit of a question mark for me. Is he going to be able to do it? Only time will tell. Right now, I think he's an overall average athlete given his size. He will need to develop as a pass protector in the NFL, but I think he can do it. And we have the time to develop somebody, so that's fine by me. And final yellow flag would be his off-field issues. He does have some off-field issues. I don't know the exact details, but I know it did cost him a little bit of playing time, and it's something to keep an eye on going forward. But I like him. I like all four of these guys as far as late-round flyers go. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Who are you into? What left tackle prospects do you want to go after late in the draft? Did I miss anybody? Do you really like any of these guys? Do you dislike any of them? Let me know. That's it for left tackles. We're going to do a stream a little later today where we talk about left tackle prospects. I don't expect it to take all that long, but hey, we could use help at the position. These are the 9 guys who I looked at who I thought could maybe help us at the position. Peace out. Go Hawks. See you guys later today.